Right guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big Rostermania questions continuing to be answered over the last 24 hours or so, and now the attention returns to NRG. Demon 1, of course, benched in their roster this season, will likely return, but what is the rest of the roster going to look like? FNS and Som potentially going to say, but they have a new head coach coming through, and what does that mean for what players they might potentially look to sign, especially with Crashies seemingly implying his time on the team may be over? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into. First of all, Mini Boo here, of course, what he was saying, baiting about his future, what's it going to be like, what a heretic's going to do, and, he's kind of confirmed that effectively after becoming a player for their regular season, he's going to go and, do content for them during the off-season, and then, of course, he's going to be back on their roster in due course when the season gets back underway. This was pretty funny as well, I'm not going to lie, from obviously the world champions, right, Edward Gaming. They took down Leviathan, they were down 1-0, they brought the comeback to get the victory here, and Com, as Smoggy says, this guy's flanking again. Chichu says, it doesn't work, the entire world knows what he's gonna do. So there's been a question on this really with Com and his flanks, and the fact that lots of his flank routes are very long and it's obviously very predictable. When the timings are right, it works very well, but I think it's never good to be a massively predictable player, and I think that Com can be that at times. I mean, Com obviously quote tweets this and thinks it was pretty funny, which is nice to see, and of course he was frustrated not winning champions this year, but he won it last year, so you can't criticize a guy who's won the world championship too heavily. But at the same time, right, it was the case in Counter-Strike for many years. You'd have certain players that, even Get Right back in the day, he'd always be on the lurk, right? That was his play style. And if you wanted to find Get Right, you could probably have a good idea where he was going to be. But he was smart enough that it really didn't matter, right? Like, he was positioned well enough that even though he's going to be on the lurk and he's going to be on some sort of flank somewhere, the timings, if you get them right, are still going to be effective, right? So even though Com might get caught off from time to time, that doesn't necessarily mean that his plays are going to be ineffective always. It's just very difficult to have the in-game IQ to consistently get that right, and well, that's why there's been some talk about it. And Papacom says, haven't had the chance to properly recognize his accomplishment this year, but super impressive. And Ethan says he's here to stay in the league for sure. But is Ethan? I mean, Ethan is also, but what's his team going to be? That's the question. And also yesterday there was a big deal going on, because I don't exactly know where this stemmed from, but the Brazilian government, or like whoever's in charge over there, has basically decided that freedom of speech is going to go out the window, and they're going to ban anyone from getting onto X, or like Twitter basically. So obviously that's a serious concern just in like the world general, but also from like a sports perspective, right? The idea of lots of these Brazilian fans and community is disappearing from the platform is really unfortunate. And even they say they're going to ban VPNs, so you can't even use those, although I don't exactly know how they're going to stop you from that. But anyway, it's an interesting one, and as Elsa says, goodbye Brazilian X, take care, and before you go, make sure to buy the Sentinels bundle, he says. So, absolute classic work here from Zeltis as always. I will say from Flynn, of course, who was like last season, the year before, doing a lot of the leaking around what was happening in the Valorant world, putting together the spreadsheets. He does say that he wasn't really coming back this year anyway for other reasons, like he doesn't have the time to really keep super up with what's happening in Valorant, but if he does come back and do it, he'll do it on Discord or something like that. So there's a couple of other people that have been trying to put together spreadsheets of what's happening here in the world of Valorant, and we'll see some examples in a second. Zaipan, by the way, from Na'Vi, is under contract but allowed to explore options, right? So this is a pretty common feature right now. Many restricted free agents around. There's just so many players that are potentially going to get dropped from their rosters and are restricted free agents that every team is like, well, maybe we can get a buyout for him. Someone might be interested. Let's just stick him in that position, right? He says open to any role, any region. So, wishing the best for him. Of course, Na'Vi did not have the year that they wanted at the end of the season, absolutely. Still, nonetheless, the big confirmation that we have had so far, of course, is coming out of Durka, right? Saying that he's an RFA. And it's pretty funny that Willminder was putting together loads of stats over the last few days, and it turns out that Durka is actually leading the way on many of these, with 2017 kills for Durka. So, all-time kill leaders at VCT international events. Durka's number 1 by quite some way, really, over Aspas. And then as we get further down, you'll find this, I think, is what, the top 20, right? So you get Boaster here at 12, Alpha, Chronicle, Kang's move up to 17. So, yeah, pretty cool list, but obviously Durka is far and away at the top of it. And this is pretty funny, really. Shahir says, I wonder how much Boasters went up compared to last champs. And Boaster was like, yeah, not really all that much, right? And maybe there's further changes that Fnatic are considering. Another big one, though, here from Yampi, right? So, of course, from Liquid, and he's going to be a restricted free agent. I think this has been a little while coming at this point. It's been a difficult kind of career in many ways, his time over in Valorant, because despite the talent that is quite clearly there, he's never really emerged as being a real, absolute force on the server. And I think it's understandable that Liquid are deciding at this point to, potentially move away. He talks about he's happy to do a lot of mid-round calling and talks about his experiences, and I'm sure that he's going to get another opportunity somewhere, but it's very interesting to see what Liquid are doing, especially because they've done this with others as well. So Mystic and Enzo, in addition, are also allowed to explore options as restricted free agents. So they may return. It's the same thing with many other teams. It's possible that they bring these guys back, but as it stands, it is not especially likely, and Liquid will look to make some upgrades for next season, as it seems, will NRG. So NRG are in a very interesting spot right now. Demon 1, we're pretty sure that they're going to be bringing him back. I mean, it would be pretty ludicrous to sign Demon 1. Of course, the team wasn't getting along especially well. They felt they needed to bench Demon 1 if they wanted a chance towards the end of the season. They did that. Did they get any better? Not really. Right. So getting rid of Demon 1 now doesn't make much sense. I think they should bring him back and form a team that is actually going to work with him. They also have a new head coach. Chet is gone. There's been questions. Who are they going to get as their new head coach? And, it seems like it's going to be Bonka. We'll discuss that here in a second. But as Crashies tweets out yesterday, had to act like it didn't hurt me, tweets out this kind of graphic here at the same time that Ethan tweets out, it's a terrible day for Rain with a tear coming to the eye. So something is quite clearly happening over there at NRG. Exactly what it is, I don't know, but there have been a couple of spreadsheets that have implies going around that Crashies is on the chopping block and potentially gone. Of course, they got rid of Victor, so and Victor and Crashies have been a duo for years. So if you're going to get rid of Victor, it may be expected that Crashies is only just around the corner of getting, kicked out of the team as well. And that presumably is what we are about to see. So Ethan is probably going to be staying, but the rumour has it that, NRG Crashies may no longer be NRG Crashies for too much longer, especially when it comes down to their new head coach. So Bonker's going to be coming in, former Oxygen head coach, of course, and it seems to me a really talented coach. And also I do wonder whether he might bring along one or two guys from Oxygen, right? Some of the more talented guys over there, the likes of, Werner or Scuba or Redux or someone like that anyway, that he's had some experience with, might consider bringing them along for the ride. I definitely don't think that's impossible. I know that many, maybe NRG fans, were hoping for Potter to be the new IGL, or the new coach, sorry, not the new in-game leader, right? But of course, Potter, Evil Genius's coach, kind of expected that she might be gone, and we thought, Potter to NRG does make a bit of sense. But that's not what they've decided to do. Bonker apparently is going to come in instead to be their head coach, and as I say, I do wonder what that means for what players he might potentially look to target, right? But that is the rumour of the day, that Crashies is potentially going to go. Ethan's therefore reacting to it, and this is, again, he is just making this up here, Bodog, so there's no actual proper rumours about this. But nonetheless, what do we think about this as a potential roster? FNS, Som and Ethan to stay as the core three, Demon 1 to bring back, because why not? Then you need a fourth, and he actually does mention, what about Verno, right? Obviously with experience with Bonker. So this would be very interesting. What do we think of this team? Obviously, maybe you keep Demon 1, or maybe you get Durka. I mean, that's maybe not impossible either. Although, would you really go all out for Durka if you can just bring Demon 1 back, unless you believe it's not going to work with Demon 1 and these other guys? Maybe that's true as well. So, interesting roster idea to keep an eye on. We're not sure if anything like this is actually going to happen, but I don't expect the roster that they actually form to be too much different from this. I feel like that they have some solid core players, they need to stick with some of them, and, you know, I just expect Crashies probably will go at this point. Rocket Bullets, of course, cashing in on his incredible reputation at the moment after the spreadsheet shenanigans and putting together another quality leaked Leviathan roster. This, of course, is probably not what's actually going to... I mean, it can't be what they're actually going to do. Well, it could be, potentially, but it would be kind of ridiculous. We have talked about the whole Sassy Aspas thing. That could happen here on Lev. It may not happen at all. It's probably not going to happen, but obviously it was a theory that Sadak had. Mazzino and King keeping them around with Aspas as well, and then bringing Ye for some, you know, unknown reason, and have him run the Sentinel or something, right? But, you know, anything is kind of possible on some level. Like, it's very unlikely, obviously, a lot of this stuff, but it's honestly not completely impossible, like, that a lot of things could potentially happen here. And just to mention another little spreadsheet, so, you know, this is kind of one of the latest ones that I've seen going around, and this seems a little bit more reasonable than some of the other ones that I've seen, right? But, you know, the general theory is that on Sentinels, it's going to be everyone's going to stay, but potentially Sassy is a little bit of a question mark. Of course, most teams, we don't really know what they're doing as of yet. 100T, they obviously could consider some moves, and NRG have Crashies as a bit of a question mark here. So, you know, that remains true for now, but I'm sure things will change with many of these teams. But very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.